Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, I'm Jamie B. I read a ton of books, and this is my first sort of weekly wrap-up for March 2026. It is just barely the 12th, so we're covering 11 days of reading, and I've got my print books stacked up here that I finished. And I finished a few other books besides these. So without any further ado, let's get to the books and see what I've been reading, what I thought of them, would I recommend them, and to whom. So this one I finished the most recently. I finished it a couple hours ago. It was boring. This is Walking on the Ceiling by Aysegul Savas. I don't know exactly how all the S's are pronounced in this name. We're just going to go with it. This is one of the books from my 26 and 26 list, which is great. I finished one. It's about a young woman from Istanbul originally, who has been living elsewhere for a while, and she's gotten into a university program in Paris. So she's going to Paris with no intention of studying. She's just using it to get her visa to go to Paris. This is the second book this month involving someone who gets a student visa, having been admitted to an academic program, and then they blow it off. Just as someone who can't imagine having that kind of funding or resources to be able to just blow off such a thing. I mean, oh my gosh. Just anyway. So, I was a little annoyed at this character and at the one from the other book that did the same thing. We'll get to that. But she decided she wanted to go to Paris because this other writer, M, is in Paris, and she wants to run into him. And beyond that, she really doesn't have any clue what she's doing in Paris. She thinks she may be writing a book, but she's really not. And that's about it. And her plans for her life are about as organized as the book, is my feeling. It is just kind of a meander through the, fecklessness of it. Yeah, you get the point. I did not enjoy this book. I didn't hate it. I was at least engaged enough in the story to be annoyed at this woman for blowing off a great opportunity to sit around and waste all of her money in Paris doing nothing very much. But yeah, there were nice passages. It was something I did finish. Just I was hoping for more. So anyway, I love the cover. It's pretty. We'll move on. I finished True History of the Kelly Gang by Peter Carey. And as the shiny thing suggests, this is a winner of the Booker Prize. I'm not sure what year it won the Booker Prize, but it should tell me, you'd think. It was published in 2000, so probably around then. Yeah, probably around then. Anyway, this one is about a originally Irish family that is sent to Australia on a prison ship, and sets up in Australia on a piece of land, and it doesn't go so great, and they turn into a sort of crime family. But not because they set out to be crime family. That's what happened. A lot of it has to do with things happening around them that's just totally unfair. Lots of discrimination against the Irish and against the individuals in this family in particular. Not that they help themselves very well, because they're also very prone to fighting, and it was an interesting book. I gave it 5 stars. I did enjoy this one. Just the characters. Oh my gosh. I know too many people in real life that if they just stopped fighting and, tried to not have such a hot head all the time, they might actually get further. This is one of those that they just, when they could have done something to build up their situation, they shoot themselves in the foot. Not literally, although I could see them shooting themselves in the foot. This could happen. Not in this book, but they're the kinds of people that would. They are kind of folk heroes, or at least characters of a folk narrative in Australia. Kind of like the gunslingers in Our Wild West. I really got that sense that this is a story like, Kit Carson or Wild Bill Hickok or some of those other characters in our narratives, that they're real people. Their actual stories reflect a lot of the unfairness in society at the time that landed them where they are. They also tend to have a temper or just don't deal well with authority. I read a biography on Billy the Kid a year ago, 2 years ago, and some of the characters in this really reminded me of Billy the Kid too. So similar people, and Australia and the U.S. West were settled by similar people. So it's not surprising. And it's a similar landscape, the big wide open skies and, hot and dry, everything's spread out. So I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I recommend it. I'm not sure what the other books were that were being considered for the Booker Prize, so I don't know yet if I think that I would have given it the prize. That remains to be seen. I am working my way through Booker Prize books as I can get them, so eventually I'll be able to say whether I would have given this book the prize or not. Next book up, The Maytrees by Annie Dillard. So this one is about a couple whose last name is Maytree. Thus, The Maytrees. So the blurb on the inside jacket, just for a refresher, Toby Maytree first sees Lou Bigelow on her bicycle in post-war Provincetown, Massachusetts. Her laughter and loveliness catch his breath. Maytree is a Provincetown native, an educated poet of 30. As he courts Lou, just out of college, her stillness draws him. Hands off, he hides his serious wooing and idly shows her his poems. So they go back and forth, and eventually there's some affairs involved in their story. He, for a while, thinks that he wants something other than her quietness, and then that gets old, and all that stuff. So it's kind of just a family drama. It has a lot to say about relationships and people, and it was good. I think I gave it a 4.25, maybe 4.5, and I liked it. It's not something that I would, write myself, but I enjoyed it. And I definitely can see why Annie Dillard is such a well-liked author, because she tells a good story, and the characters are believable, and they're definitely real, and yeah, so I liked it. Next one is When the Cranes Fly South by Lisa Ridden. This was a 5-star. I really enjoyed it. I also had this one as an audiobook and an ARC, so I was definitely going to read this book. And then I came across this one that it wasn't sellable because pages literally are coming out. So if I have any PVA glue sitting around, I don't know if I still have any. It's not that hard to fix, but I rescued it so it didn't get recycled, so I could read it in print without having to use a screen. This is about a man who is nearing the end of his life. He has a dog that he loves very much. He has a son who he loves very much, and who is becoming the dominant party in this man's life, as he's losing his capacity to make his own choices. And he is struggling with this. And his son doesn't really have the same priorities and the same understanding as his father. So things like whether this elderly man gets to keep his dog is a huge contention. And the people that are showing up to take care of the elderly man aren't really paid to take care of the dog. They do anyway, but it's not their job. So that becomes a problem. But the dog is this man's only friend. And, well, he does have another human friend, but he's also old. And that's really the only friend he's got left besides the dog. So it's really about getting old and how relationships change between parents and their kids as the parents become unable to take care of themselves. So it was very thoughtfully written, and with my age being closer to the son, you'd think that I would be sympathetic with the son, and it's well written enough that I was definitely rooting for the old man. He's not the nicest old man, but still, he should have been able to keep his dog. So, anyway, it was a lovely book. It is, I don't think it's eligible for Women's Prize. It wasn't on their list anyway. I think it's in translation from the Swedish. Yes, it's translated, copyright 2025. So this one would be eligible for prizes, just not for the Women's Prize. So it would have to be for one that allows translated works. But it was really good. I don't know how much people have been talking about it because I hadn't heard of it. But I could definitely see it being on prize lists. If nothing else, Dublin Literary Awards certainly could have it. And I don't know when it would be eligible for their prize. It might be a year or so. Still, I don't know. Anyway, it was really good. Totally would belong on a prize list. All right. Next, we have a Man Booker Prize finalist. Harvest by Jim Crace. I liked this one. This is probably 4.75. It wasn't quite the stellar 5 stars, but it's basically a 5-star book. This one is about a village that is dealing with enclosure and the change of ownership. They're peasants. They don't own where they're at. They belong to the land, and the land has been bought or changed hands to some other person who wants to use the land differently and wants to run sheep and enclose the land, so put fences up, and basically decimate the way of life of the people that live there. And they're really not happy. And shenanigans ensue. Yeah, it was really good. Anyway, so set in Britain during an interesting historical period where lots of things were changing. Yeah. And it was, according to this, the author was the National Book Critics Circle Award winner for Being Dead. So I'll need to watch for that. So I'm definitely going to read more of him. I have Quarantine by the same author. I don't know if I have anything else. I might. So you'll see more Jim Crace for sure. I finally finished Ready for a Brand New Beat by Mark Kurlansky, which is about the making of a song. Oh, what was the song? Dancing in the Street. That's right. Which I don't like. So, the book was interesting. The narrative of how this song came to be and how it came to be such an anthem, that all was really interesting and sort of encapsulates the changes that were going on in this era, in the 60s and the 50s and 60s. So it was a good book. But I really don't like that song. And there's a lot of 50s and 60s music that I like way more and I wish was more successful than that song. So the entire time I was trying to be interested in the song, and I even put it on and listened to it. Just, yeah. So I have another book by him about 1968 in particular. The title is 1968 somewhere. I found the audiobook for it, so I'll listen to it and find the book when I can. But I might like it a little bit more than this one just because it's not my favorite music. So, anyway. It is interesting, though, all the social dynamics that made a song by black performers into such an influential song in a time when music was a bit segregated, that white people didn't listen to music by black people and that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Then we have An American Marriage by Tayari Jones, which was on the Women's Prize. Did she win the Women's Prize? I think she did. It's not going to tell me on the back, though. No, it's not going to tell me. Probably came out before the prize, as far as this book is concerned. So it's very shiny, very pretty. I like this cover. So this is one that is definitely a pretty cover. I don't know if I claimed points for that, for Realmathon, because that was just 1 point. But it would have counted for a pretty cover. This book is about a couple in the South. Newlyweds, Celestial and Roy, are the embodiment of both the American dream and the New South. He is a young business executive and she is an artist on the brink of an exciting career. But as they settle into the routine of their life together, they are suddenly ripped apart by circumstances neither could have imagined, when, while visiting Roy's parents in their small Louisiana town, Roy is arrested and sentenced to 12 years in prison for a crime Celestial knows he didn't commit, but that she conveniently isn't quite sure about once he's come out of prison. I didn't like Celestial at all. So when Roy comes back from prison, she's kind of moved on. He wasn't supposed to come back after such a short sentence, but it became clear that he was not guilty and he got released. And yeah, so meanwhile, she's moved on. She has a new partner, and was not expecting Roy back. And there's a mess. Lots of mess. And it also gets into a lot of what was going on in the New South, between black people and white people in various socioeconomic groups. And yeah, it was really good. I can definitely see why it was a book that ended up on prize lists. I got really tired of reading about the South and really tired of reading about race issues. So that was actually why I switched to the Jim Crace book as the next one I did. Socioeconomic stuff instead of race, just for a change of pace. So lots of really good ones. I also finished a library book, finally. This one that I've had for a while, The Physics of Sorrow by Georgy Gospodinov. Published a decade before his International Booker Prize winning Time Shelter, which I still have not gotten a copy of yet. Georgy Gospodinov's The Physics of Sorrow has become an underground cult classic. Finding strange solace in the myth of the Minotaur, a man named Georgy reconstructs the story of his life like a labyrinth, meandering through the past to find the melancholy child at the center of it all. This one reminded me, or I was reminded of this one, by a bit in the Walking on the Ceiling book, the really boring one, because there is a point where they're talking about Ariadne's thread that leads the hero out of the labyrinth, out of the Minotaur's labyrinth. And that features heavily in this book. So, more than one book with that motif as well. So this is set in Bulgaria in the 1970s, and then, closer to the present, as he's an adult, but thinking about his childhood and moving around in time. So it's really good. Finalist for the PEN Literary Award for translation, and the Strega Europeo, which I don't know. I will have to look at it. Winner of the Jan Michalski Prize for Literature. Which I also don't know that prize at all. But yeah, this one was fun. It was a little disorienting. Maybe more clever than readable sometimes. And that may be the translation. There may be things in the original language. Bulgarian? Yes. So there may be things in the original language that worked that were just hard to translate into English without losing some sense. So that may be part of it. But it was really hard to follow at times. And it was well done. Just, it wasn't a 5-star because it was frustrating. Not just hard. Hard would be okay, but hard and you're not really sure why you're doing this because it wasn't that bad, but it was not as smooth a reading experience as I would wish. But if you are familiar with the Minotaur, it will go smoother for you reading this book. And I wasn't missing any of the references, but yeah. It would be one that if you don't know a lot about the Minotaur and about, mythologies and that involve the Minotaur and Ariadne and all that, there's a lot of references that are going to go over your head, and you might need to go very slowly and look up a lot of stuff. So, anyway, let's get to the books I don't have in print. First up, we have the one I finished most recently, The Beautiful Maddening by Shea Ernshaw. I read another book by her. I'm forgetting the name of it now. But it was really good, so I definitely wanted to check this one out. The Beautiful Maddening is about a pair of sort of orphan kids. They're teenagers, and they're twins, seniors in high school, and their family is under a curse that involves these weird tulips that grow in their yard that enchant people so that they fall in love with anyone in this, family, which is not a good thing. And so they never know if people are falling in love with them because of them or because of the tulips. And every year when the tulips bloom, it gets really bad, to where people are obsessively infatuated and sometimes violently so. And of course, the girl out of this pair of teenagers meets a boy and actually falls in love with him. And she's not sure what to do about it because is he in love with her or not? So, it was an interesting one. It was written, I think, with YA audience in mind, which was nice. It didn't get too steamy, but it was still a romantic story. But definitely leaned heavily on the curse and the tulips. So not so romancy that I wouldn't want to read it. So it was good. Before that, I finished An Arc of Air by Christian Kracht, translated from the German into English this year. It will be coming out this year. I don't remember what month, maybe July. Anyway, it comes out this month. This year. It's an arc that I got recently. And I'm trying to finish more of my arcs more timely. So this one, it turned out to be rather short. It's only 192 pages, according to Storygraph. So I just read it. It was good. It reminded me of the second season vibes of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency series. The TV show that went 2 seasons. There's an older version of that story that's way different, but in the TV show it's kind of quirky and fantasy, like modern fantasy and mysterious, and not everything gets explained. There's an adventure, there's knights and armor and horses and maybe magic and all sorts of stuff is going on. It was a lot for being such a short book. I enjoyed it. So I was a 4.75, maybe a 5, probably a 5. I have to sit with some of these ratings and, might bump some of them up. So I had fun with it anyway. Paradiso 17, also an arc, although an arc that I've had for a while longer, by Hannah Lilith Asadi. This one is on the long list for the Women's Award. Yes, for fiction, which a lot of people are reading the long list right now. So I'm sort of reading the longer list right now, but I can only get 9 of them. So this is one of the ones I've got. And I enjoyed it. It's about a Palestinian man who leaves Kuwait, where his family have wound up after they were kicked out of Israel so that it could become the Jewish homeland. So they're kicked out of Israel, or escape Israel, in the 40s, and land in Kuwait, and it's just kind of a holding pattern there. They're not really wanted there. They don't really fit in. It's a dead end as far as they can see, and so this guy gets to go to Italy. His family funds his trip to Italy to go to school, to get a degree in engineering or something. This is the other book that I read this month, where somebody goes to another country to go to college and then blows it off. Anyway, so I was a little annoyed at him for that. I really didn't like the main character all that much, but it was still a really good story. I think the 4.75 that I gave it instead of a 5 is really, I just did not like the main character. He had so many opportunities and he blew them all off so easily. And yeah, he could have done way better if he took things a little bit more seriously and appreciated the things that people were offering him a little bit more. So, but it's a really good book. He ends up in Italy and then he ends up in the United States and has a grand life. Actually manages to see his grandkid. So obviously things go well enough to have a grandkid. So yeah. Beyond that, I'll leave you guys to read it yourselves, because I know a lot of people are reading it, and there will be lots of people giving more or less spoilery reviews of this one. But it is good. 4.75 for me. I think it'll stay at a 4.75, while Air by Christian Krocht might go up to a 5. I liked it a little bit more. Next up is Writers and Lovers by Lily King, which I gave a 4.25. This one is the first book to which the second book, the sequel, Heart the Lover, is on the Women's Prize list. Yes. So this one is about a young woman who is a writer and works as a waitress. And it's really mostly about her working as a waitress and trying to finish her novel and all the stuff that goes on around that. And people that want her to just be the support for their own writing. So instead of valuing her writing, they want her to just be their supporter while they write their novel and stuff like that. So so it was about a young woman taking herself seriously about her own novel, enough to actually finish it and get it published and do her own life instead of taking care of someone else's. So I like that. It wasn't really my kind of book. Kind of like with the Maytrees, it just wasn't my sort of story, but still good. Similarly, A Theory of Relativity by Jacqueline Mitchard was a 4.25 stars. This one is about an orphaned child and the the family members who want custody of this child on both sides of her family, her mom's family and her dad's family, and all of the drama that comes up as they're battling each other basically for custody of this kid. Not really my kind of story, but it was good. I enjoyed it. Still 4.25, not any higher than that. Not my kind of thing. Family dramas are just not my kind of thing. There needs to be something else going on in it, or it's not gonna be a 5-star usually. I have all the ones I didn't print. The Shadow of the Northern Lights by Satu Remo. This one is a Icelandic murder mystery. This is book 3 in the series, so I will be watching for other books by Satu Remo. It's very Icelandic. And it's just a straight up crime novel. There's a body, and then there's other stuff going on. It's not super obvious. I did like that I didn't solve the whole thing before the end, and it didn't feel like cheating once you get the solution. So it was good. I finished Dominion by Addie E. Chichens, which was a 5-star book. Also a family drama, but with other stuff mixed in. So in this one, we have a family in the Deep South. I'm going to pull up this book in its own tab. Alright, so in this one, the sins of a favorite son rock a small Mississippi town. Reverend Saber Winfrey, shepherd of the Seven Seals Baptist Church, believes in God, his own privilege, and enterprise. Besides the barber shop and radio station he owns, he has an iron hand in every aspect of Dominion, Mississippi society. He and his wife Priscilla have 5 boys. And they're all wonderful. And yes, the youngest, Emmanuel, is called Wonder Boy. After a surprising encounter with a stranger, Wonder Boy finds himself confronted by a question he never imagined, and his response will send shockwaves through the entire community, told from the point of view of the women who love these two men. Dominion illustrates how we enable the everyday violence and casual sin of patriarchy. Which doesn't really catch any of what I thought was most interesting about the book, but gives you some idea of what it was. It was good. I enjoyed it. It is also on the Women's Prize list. So, 5-star. I enjoyed it based on numbers alone. It being a 5-star, it's kind of at the top of the list for me. The other one that might be a contender, I gave it 4.75 stars. I'm not a romance reader, so that's really where the lower points come in. But Moderation by Elaine Castillo. This book, it's a woman who's doing content moderation and gets invited to work in a new department of her company doing content moderation for virtual reality, for a rather elaborate virtual reality setup, and gets into questions like, if you are sexually assaulted in virtual reality, were you sexually assaulted, and did the person who assaulted you assault you? What do you do about it? Among other things. There's some fun stuff that comes up in this book. So serious questions that didn't used to exist because all the stuff around them was science fiction, and now it's reality. I enjoyed that one. It might be a 5-star book. But it's definitely in my top 3 along with Dominion. We'll see after I finish a couple more what my ordering is for the long list books that I can actually read. I finished Helm by Sarah Hall, which was on a lot of people's predictions for the Women's Prize. I gave it 3.75 stars. It wasn't terrible, but it was not a Women's Prize worthy book. It was just a book. It was okay. It stars a wind. The main character that we're in its perspective a lot. It's a wind. And it felt like a gimmick. It really did not work very well for me. So, I finished Solito by Javier Zamora. This is a memoir about the author who, as a kid, crossed into the United States from Mexico. He's from El Salvador, I think. But so his parents are already in the United States, having entered the United States illegally. And he wants to join his parents in the States. He is 9 years old and traveling by himself to cross over to get to the United States. And he goes through all sorts of adventures. It's a hero's journey sort of story. But yeah, it was quite the story. And then the first books I started the month with are An Oral History of Atlantis by Ed Park, which is short stories. They're good. 4.75 stars. Just a lot of really good stories that do kind of tie together. Maybe not enough to be a novel and short stories, but some of them do connect. So I liked them. I wished that they'd connected a little bit more because it felt like it should have been a novel and short stories. It just didn't quite get there. So anyway, that was just a me thing probably. And then I finished Isola by Allegra Goodman. Also 4.75 stars. A lot of books are almost but not quite 5 stars for me this month. Isola is historical fiction. It is about a young woman and her lover that are marooned on an island for a while. So it's like that classic. Oh my gosh, I don't remember words right now. Anyway, they get marooned on an island, and are stuck there for quite some time before they're rescued. And it's her brother that maroons her there? I'm pretty sure it was. Anyway, marooned on the island because she starts having a romance with a young man on the ship that her guardian doesn't think she should be having a relationship with. So he puts the pair of them on this island and then, sails off to the new world without her. And when they finally get rescued, he tries to spin it so that it wasn't his fault and that she was the guilty party and all this, and she's just making things up or something. But there's proof. It's great. So I really enjoyed it. And it's based on a true story. So it's actually historical fiction based on a true story. So that's the part that I found most interesting. That it's not just totally made up. So anyway, I definitely recommend it. I've seen it for a while and I tried it out just to, satisfy my curiosity because it's been sitting there staring at me from the library for a while. So anyway, that brings us to the end of this video. I finished a few books. Yeah, definitely more than one a day. I've not quite hit 2 a day, but I'm edging closer to that. Definitely getting a little bit more up to speed for the competitive readathons thing. I'm doing Realmathon, which is competitive. It's not really my social set. So I don't have a lot of friends that I'm chatting with in sprints during it, and it's just not my vibe quite so much. I don't know what it is about these. I always enjoy them, but it's like the warm-up for the real readathons for me. Something like that. So, not to diss on the Realmathon folks, and they do a fantastic job. Just, I'm less engaged in their readathons than I would like to be. But there will be more readathons coming in the near future that are competitive, that are kind of my social set. So there's a little bit more personal competition going on. And there's a little sort of competitiveness between myself and a couple other people for Arc Madness. March Madness. March Madness. Doesn't really roll off the tongue very well. Anyway, the readathon that we're in right now for the first half of the month, where we're reading arcs, a couple of us are trying to beat each other's numbers, roughly. But it's not quite the same. So, anyway. I'm going to finish this video off so that it doesn't get any longer. And so you guys can watch the video and let me know if you've read any of the books that I have read, what you think of them. Are you reading the Women's Prize long list? What do you think of the books that I've been reading off the long list? Yeah. I will do a video once I finish all the long list books I can access, ranking them, because I think I should be able to finish the rest of the ones I can get before the shortlist comes out. It might be a little bit close because I ran out of audiobook checkouts from the library. Yeah, these things happen. So I'm gonna have to wait till April for a couple of them that I can get them as streaming audio. I just can't get them this month. So, oh well. So I'll probably finish like within the first 2 days of April and be able to do my rankings before the shortlist comes out. So, yay. So I will catch you guys in the next video, hopefully in about a week. I'd like to get back to a week. But we'll see, something close to that. Maybe, 10 days. We'll see. And if I finish enough books that it justifies doing it sooner, I will definitely try to do it sooner, because 10 books would be a lot more comfortable than close to 20. So, we'll see. But you'll see me in the next video or on Reading Sprints chats somewhere in BookTube land. Talk to you soon, guys. Bye!